Welcome back to Mojo Grip Mike here. Today we're flying the Pipistrel Sinus. The Sinus is a motor glider, and this is actually one of Pipistrel's earliest models. They've been making these airplanes since the early 90s, and the one we're flying today is powered by a Rotax 80 horsepower engine. It is a light sport, so you're required to have a sports license to be able to fly one of these. Now, at first glance, you see that this aircraft, although it looks like your standard tricycle landing gear airplane, has much longer wings. And that's where the glider comes in, which means this thing likes to fly, and you see once we take off from the ground.
Okay, how do you hear me?
I hear you perfectly fine.
Okay,
The cabin
very good.
width in the Pipistrel Sinus is about 44 inches, and as you can see, right next to me is our flight instructor today. His name is Rand, and he's actually the rep here for Pipistrel in Florida. So you have two full-grown men sitting side by side, and we didn't have any issues moving around. It was nice and comfortable in there. Now, if you look at the dash here, you see that our avionics is actually an iPad, and we were able to fly this aircraft without any issues with the iPad. The Sinus does come with adjustable rudder pedals, so if you're on the taller side or you're a little bit shorter, you can always pull the rudder pedals towards you or you push them away from you. Your throttle is in the center console, and you have an air brake that you can pull on whenever you're coming into land. That's right above you. You sit up straight in the cockpit, stretch your legs forward, and we're ready to go. Now, taxiing in the Pipistrel Sinus was fairly easy. Once you're used to using toe brakes in an airplane, you should be able to taxi in this aircraft without any problems. Now, being that this aircraft has longer wings than your standard aircraft in the same class, you definitely want to watch out for obstacles whenever you're taxiing. Don't get too carried away, and make sure you look to your right and to your left. Make sure those wingtips are not hitting anything. The run-up in the Pipistrel Sinus went rather quickly, and we were ready to rock and roll. Now, on our takeoff roll, I saw we were up in the air in just a little bit over 400 feet. And with two of us in there, we saw a pretty good climb rate right out of the field. I've been in a light high-wing aircraft very similar to this one in the past, and from what I can remember, we were bouncing around pretty good. The Pipistrel Sinus, I think, is a very well-balanced airplane. On the climb out, we saw some winds. Also in cruise, the airplane handled itself just fine. Once we were clear of traffic, we continued our climb out, and Rand allowed me to have some stick time. My first impression in flying this aircraft is you need to use your fingers, just nice, slow, gentle touches. If you're used to flying a heavier airplane, this is not one of those aircraft that you have to jerk around. Just a little touch in your fingers and it goes. I was able to practice some turns, and it turns out you don't even need much rudder input to have a perfectly nice turn in this aircraft. Flying along, it was time to test out some stalls. Pipistrel Sinus was stalled around 35 knots. That's really slow. Once the aircraft stalls, you recover as you would in any other airplane. Now here's the really fun part of flying a motor glider. When you shut the power off in the Pipistrel Sinus, you feather that prop and see what happens. The airplane keeps flying. What you see right now is an airplane flying in the skies without an engine pulling or pushing it. This is where those long wings really come out to play. Now the good news for any pilots who's flying one of these is the fact that you have a better gliding ratio. If you were to lose your engine at any point at a good altitude, chances are you'll have enough room to be able to get this thing down without having to test your pilot skills. And speaking of glide ratio, the best glide ratio for this aircraft is at 51 knots. So if you were to lose your engine, just set that speed to 51 knots and you should have a good range to be able to land the airplane. Here's another thing you should know about the Pipistrel Sinus. You can pull some G's in this thing. What you see us doing right now is the nose is down and we're pulling those wings at a really high angle of attack. This is a steep turn. I've never even done turns like this, and this airplane is still flying stable without an engine. Again, this is the beauty of flying a motor glider. The Pipistrel Sinus will cruise around 110 knots. This is at 75% power, and you're burning less than 5 gallons of fuel per hour. Your max speed, being that it's a light sport, is 120 knots. With your standard tanks of 16 gallons of fuel, you have almost 5 hours of endurance in this aircraft. Now, if you opt for the bigger tanks at 26 gallons, then you're looking at closer to 8 hours of flight time. Again, the beauty of a motor glider is that you don't always need that engine to pull you through the sky. You can turn off your engine and just continue to soar in this airplane. When you do that on a long trip, your fuel consumption goes down to about 2.5 gallons of fuel burn per hour. What that equates to 30 to 40 miles per gallon in an airplane. Some cars don't even get that good of a gas mileage. This makes the Pipistrel Sinus one of the most economical aircraft to fly. Now on our way back down, when you're coming in to land with this aircraft, make sure you have access to those speed brakes, because again, with those longer wings, the airplane wants to keep flying, and you don't always want a situation where you're just too high during your approach. And also, once you come in to land, you want to pull on those brakes so that way you're touching the floor, because if you don't pull the brakes, chances are you're going to be floating much longer on the runway and you may not even get a chance to land that airplane. But landing we did. And when I think of who this aircraft is for, it's a light sport capable of doing actual long cross-country flights. If you're looking at modern light sports in the market today, this is definitely one of the options you should be considering. It's well priced, around $125,000. You add more options like the parachute, speed brakes, and your price might go up a little bit. But what you get is an airplane that can take you places at 110 knots, and you're only burning 2.5 gallons of fuel per hour. If you want to find out more about the Pipistrel Sinus, be sure to check the link below. It has all the information about this aircraft, and you can also ask questions. Make sure you leave in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me today on this flight, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give a thumbs up, and if this is your first time, be sure to hit that subscribe button for me. Again, this is Mike. Thank you guys, and I will catch you on the next video.